Okay. Mixed Feelings by Avan Jogia. He falls into the category of celebrity. Kind of. I mean, he's an actor. Celebrity is such a loaded word. But I've been thinking a lot about celebrity books and books written by celebrities. I think in the last year or so, there have been a lot of interesting books written by celebrities. One of them is this book. I think he just came out with it last fall. Yeah, he just came out with it last fall. I just read it last November. I went back and looked at my own review of this on Goodreads, and I wanted to talk about this, even though I've read it almost a year ago. I wanted to talk about it because a lot of celebrities have written books in the last like year or so. Florence Welch put this out. I don't know if she put this out in 2018 or 2019. But she put this out in like, let's just say the last 2 years. She put this out in the last 2 years. Lana just put hers out, and I've only read one poem out of this. That's why this video is not going to be about this. That's going to be a separate video. Actually, to that point, I want to make this a series and discuss like celebrity poetry, what insight it gives us into that person beyond the celebrity idea, beyond the actor idea, beyond the beautiful head of hair that Avan Jogia has. Like what insight do we get? I think a little bit celebrity culture and how it clashes with literature. I think is also going to be a theme going out on with this. And I said this the other day on Instagram. I'm open-minded to when celebrities write books because anyone can write anything. Like anyone can write a book. Like you know what I mean? Like anyone can write a book. It has very varying levels of quality, of course, but like I don't think that I'm interested in dismissing people wholesale and just dismissing people right off the bat. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in, let me try it? Will I enjoy the book? Will I gain new insight into them as a human being and a person? What I think, and my opinion on that is it's more interesting for a celebrity to write a book than to put out perfume. How involved are they really in making perfume? They smell a couple of samples and they pick one. You know what I mean? And I know that sounds really jaded, but it's a little bit it's beyond merchandise. It's beyond merchandising their name and their brand. It's to the point of expanding their brand but creatively. And I like that. And I think that we should encourage that instead of, I don't know, like, and I don't want to criticize anyone because I know Rihanna is really creative and really business savvy, and she has a clothing line and a lingerie line and a makeup line. And I think that's great to be an entrepreneur, but I'm not really like, I think that she puts a lot of energy and a lot of creativity and a lot of her, you can see she has the size inclusivity and the body diversity and all this kind of thing. I understand that, and I think she does put a lot of thought and a lot of creativity into her brand, and I will commend that. But I'm not really like, like like you know, I'm not gonna buy Rihanna clothes. Probably, I'm not. I don't wear tons of makeup, and that's the truth. Because I don't know if it's because I'm lazy or I just think I'm so beautiful. I don't need it, but I definitely not that one. Um, but I just feel like I'm more interested in like an artist making art, and you could argue that clothes are a form of art, but nah, da da da. Like everyone's interested. And this is a booktube channel first and foremost, so of course I'm more interested in a book than I am an outfit. So that's just my interest, my bias. So I like it when famous people write books. I like it when, and then we could do, and I could also do a whole series on celebrities starting book clubs, celebrities and influencers starting book clubs, book discussion groups, etc. I'm like a cat with the lint in front of my face. The lint is in front of my face because the window is open. I'm just like seeing all of it and getting distracted. Anyway, but I could just make a whole series on that. But I'm gonna start with this series on celebrity poetry. I'm going to narrow it down to poetry because celebrities have written YA novels, they've written regular novels. But I'm interested in celebrity poetry because I think that poetry is something that it's interesting to me because most people don't like poetry, and I know that you're maybe here on BookTube, you're going to be like, "What? Most people don't like poetry?" I think most people don't like poetry, and even people who watch BookTube videos, I think even a lot of people who read novels, I don't think a lot of us like poetry. I think most people don't like poetry. So I think like I think it's interesting when a celebrity writes poetry because I don't really care about poetry myself. But I'm one of those people. I don't really love or read a lot of poetry, and that's the truth. But I think it's interesting that celebrities are like, I read poetry, I write poetry, I'm creative in poetry. I'm like, that's interesting. And that's fascinating. I think it's kind of less fascinating for like a musician because lyrics are poetry technically, right? But I think it's interesting in general, and I find that really interesting. So that's the whole premise. This is just going to be the beginning of a series that I'm going to do about celebrity poetry. I'm probably going to graduate to celebrity book clubs and celebrity novels along the way, but we're starting here. This is where we're starting. This is the first stop on the train. And we're going to talk about Mixed Feelings by this lovely human being, Avan Jogia. I'm like, I really had to stop and think for a second. Avan Jogia. So Avan Jogia is an actor. You probably most likely know him from Victorious. He's been in other things since Victorious. He was in some sort of sci-fi show where it had like vampires and werewolves and ghosts. Oh my. Um, he was in another show on CW. Not CW. Freeform, but back then it was called ABC Family, and he's the reason why I love Kylie Bunbury, even though she's not really famous either. Anyway, moving right along. He's not like super famous, but he's like around. He works. Oh, and he was King Tut, and now the more we know about King Tut, his movie about King Tut was so inaccurate because King Tut was almost like disabled. Like he was almost like disabled. Like go look it up. He had a lot of like physical deformities because he was so inbred. Um, that's a whole different story. But he was King Tut. He was a very good looking King Tut. Look it up. Again, he was also in the King Tut miniseries. And if streaming was as big as it is now back then, and Netflix was a thing when this came out, but it was networks were really reluctant to put their items onto streaming. So, but now I feel like if King Tut had come out on Netflix or even HBO, he would be so famous. Like he would be so big. He would have gotten nominated for all of the awards. Like everyone would have loved that. But anyway, moving right along. So, or most recently, you may have seen him in Shaft. I thought that was a pretty good movie. It got slammed by critics. I thought that his character was okay, and his character, I thought you have to see the movie. I don't want to give spoilers, but I thought they subverted the kind of, Middle Eastern, um, Middle Eastern terrorist idea. I thought they subverted that. And I thought the way they portrayed it was pretty good, and that was his character. And I thought he had a complex character. But, the critics did not agree, and they also thought the movie was pretty sexist. I thought it was like, this is probably going to sound so ignorant. I thought it was like a little bit sexist, but the way they did it, now I'm getting into a movie review. The way they did it was they had different generations of men, and you had the millennial man, it's different generations of black men, and you had the millennial guy really calling shit out. Like, ooh, excuse me, my language, calling stuff out. I felt like there was a conversation being had in the movie, but apparently the critics, again, did not agree. Moving right along. So is this book good? 9 minutes and 30 seconds. If you watch Peter Mon, he does this timestamp and he gets mad at people for timestamping. I might actually literally put my own timestamp, like skip to 9 minutes and 45 seconds to really just talk about the book. Okay, but is this book any good? And does this book give, like I was saying, any insight to Avan Jogia as a person? I think number one, yes, I think the book is pretty good. I gave it a 3 stars. I was looking at what I gave it on Goodreads, but I think that now looking back on it, I don't think stars are the end all be all. Number one, number two, I don't think numeric things are the end all be all. I think that the book, if I was going to reassign it a number now, thinking about how I felt about it in retrospect, I would give it like a 3.5. I mean, it's really, I think it's definitely feels like a first book, and it can be kind of scattered at times because 2 years ago, I really remember like 2 or 3 years ago at this point, he was put this thing on Instagram and he was like, "Are you mixed? Do you have any like stories or things you want to share about growing up mixed and being mixed in our like really racialized society and really like race absorbed society?" And this is what it came to, and he really took his time putting it together. I really have to say that. I think he really took his time putting it together because I remember it was like 2 or 3 years ago and he started collecting those stories. So he really took a couple years and put that into this book. And I think it is that thoughtful. It does feel collected. It doesn't feel like he sat down like some people and just slap some stuff together to meet a deadline. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like he had a fully formed idea. He collected things to go into the idea. He really, you know, gathered his thoughts over the course of several years and put this book together. I really feel like he did. I really feel like he did put that effort in. And it's not just poems, it's poems and stories. And it also has a very strong aesthetic quality to it. And I believe that he did all the artwork. I believe there's no artist credit. There's no artist credited except for him. So I think that he really did all of the art for this book, and I think that's really cool as well. And again, like to me, it's much more creative and interesting than a lot of like merch a celebrity could come out with. And it's not merch; it's a creative, piece of work, and it has such a great journal quality, a journal sketchbook quality, and then he has some great photos in here, like this photo of the day he was born. I'm like, that's so lucky. I don't have a picture of the day I was born. Um, I think it has a really great sketchbook meets scrapbook quality. He talks a lot about a lot of different topics. He talks about politics. He talks about race. He talks about cultural appropriation. And he gives a really interesting insight into cultural appropriation to me because he has an Indian British father and a English Irish mother. And his mother, marrying his father, wore Indian dress, like traditional Indian wedding outfit. And she was literally saying to him once, like, "Oh, don't post that picture. I don't want people to say it's cultural appropriation." And I'm like, wow. It really gave you like a different insight. But it's like, and they're together, and his parents are still together now, which I think is a lovely, beautiful thing. And he talks about growing up. He talks about feminism. He talks about so much. He talks a lot about a lot of things in this. And I like, why did I give this 3 stars? It's more going towards 4 stars. I think it is very thoughtfully put together. And I just want to read a little bit from the intro. He said, "Mixed feelings started like a storm, a swirling of ideas that began to take shape, the eye of which was always unseeable to me, and will most likely remain unseeable until this book is finished. I've always felt out of place in this world, a world, it seems, that is increasingly polarized by race, by gender, by sexuality, by religion, by politics." And he really dives into those things. I feel like he really dives into those things and shares his perspective. And I think it's really interesting. I think it's really well done. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And I look back and like it's interesting. It's like how your opinion on things changes over time. I might just go ahead and reread this and really just go like, what is my opinion after rereading it, and really giving it that credit. I'm really fascinated. I think a lot of people are so dismissive of celebrity books. But I'm like, why? Like, I feel like they're famous, yes, but I feel like we're forgetting that all celebrities aren't the same. Like, all celebrities didn't get famous just because they strolled up and they were cute. Like, a lot of celebrities, most celebrities get famous by having a talent. Like, we don't give people that credit anymore because there's so many reality stars muddying the waters, but we don't give people that credit anymore. Like, they are creative people. They have made things. And another poetry book that I want to talk about with this series is Jewel's book. And I feel like Jewel's book received a lot of very dismissive reviews. And I just feel like I'm not interested in being dismissive of anything and anybody. Um, I think I might give some people negative reviews. Like, we might get along down the line to we might get down the line to this girl, you may have heard of her, named Gabby Hanna. We might get to her. I might not do her book at all, though. There is another book that I want to do. It's this one by Lily Reinhart. Now, I don't watch the show that she's on, but I'm kind of interested in what I've read some like snippets here and there. Kind of interested. And Halsey, I don't know if this is even out yet. I don't listen to again. I don't listen to Halsey, but I'm kind of interested, and I think I'm gonna definitely do this as a series. By the time I finish doing this book, by the time I finish reading Violet Bit Backwards Over the Grass, by the time I finish reading Florence Welch's book, I think that they're probably gonna have those other two books in the library, and I'll do those too. I don't want to buy all of them, and I'm gonna get to this one, and I'm gonna give Florence her day in the sun. But I was reluctant to buy this. This is a $40 book. And it's really like this much poetry. Like, it's really like the same as like this size. Like, if it was just the new poetry she wrote for this collection, it would be like this size. But this is a $40 book, and this is a $19.99, $17 if you have the Barnes Noble thing. And so I was like, Florence, I don't know. I am a stand for Florence, though. I should have bought it. I should have bought it. At the same time, I don't even have a bookshelf. You see my books on the ground. So I'm just like, Florence, I don't have the money for that. I don't have time. I don't have the time or the money for that right now. So I'm going to read it from the library, and that's awesome. Support your local library. That's the end of this video. I hope you liked this cat and this. That's the new background decoration.